Hey everyone, my name is Naima, and this is our social talks. So before I actually get into it, I just want to let y'all know that I really fucking love y'all because I recorded this video about 1,001 times, and between me fucking up and my camera fucking up, it's been 2 days, and I'm over it. But anyway, getting into it. So we're gonna be talking about something a little on the triggering side today. So if you're sensitive to sexual assault or abuse, please keep scrolling. If not, let's kind of get into it. So this episode is really geared towards my social workers who want to work with sexual advocates, as well as social workers in general, because you really just don't know who has a history of sexual assault. I'm also speaking to my individuals who've had a history of sexual assault. I know a lot of times it feels very isolating and very alone, but with me sharing my story, I really hope that you're able to kind of get some type of insight on that. So before we delve into this episode even deeper, let's talk about some stats that I pulled from RAIN, which is Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. It's an amazing website, amazing resource where I get a lot of my information from. So the first stat that I pulled is every 68 seconds, a person is sexually assaulted in America. The 1 out of every 6 women have experienced an attempted or complete rape within her life. As far as black women, that statistic, whatever, it's a little higher, with 1 out of every 5 black women being a survivor of rape or completed or attempted rape. 1 out of every 4 black girls will be assaulted before they turn 18, which I definitely was part of that population. Another fact that I thought was interesting was college men ages 18 to 24 are 5 times more likely to be sexually assaulted than their peers, which I think is ridiculous because when we think about sexual assault, 9 times out of 10 we think about our girls, we don't think about our sons. And speaking of men again, 3% of black men experience an attempted or complete rape within their lifetime, which personally I think is way low just because we don't talk about sexual assault within the black community, especially with men. So I don't think that that number accurately reflects what actually is going on within our community. Another stat that I thought was a little shocking was 80,000 inmates each year, about 80,000 inmates each year experience sexual violence while in jail or prison, and 60% of that sexual violence is done by staff, which is sad because when we think about sexual assault in jail or just assault in general, I know a lot of times I'm thinking of a lot of abuse, a lot of corruption, a lot of negligence, but I don't think of sexual assault in regards to the actual staff doing it. So, excuse me, definitely something that I wasn't really prepared to read. So to kind of shift back towards sexual assault and women in general, within our country, sexual assault is just like everywhere, and only 40% of us actually go out and get help. So that's 40% of us who actually go get counseling, 40% who actually go to the hospital, who get psychiatric care. Like only 40% of us, less than half, actually get some type of help. And out of that 40%, only 10% actually go to the police. I know personally me, I was not part of that 10%. I did not want to go to police because there was a lot of fear on my end. I talked a lot about fear throughout this episode because that was my biggest issue. I was scared that they wouldn't believe me. You know, I was scared that I would have to tell everybody from Jack and Jill to fucking Susie and Mike about my fucking experience, and I was just terrified of it because I just wanted to put it behind me. And even with me going through therapy and going through my healing process, I still would like to put it behind me in regards to like the legal aspect of it because I really do feel like it would really serve to trigger and traumatize me more than actually help me. So with all this talk about sexual assault, like what is the actual definition? So sexual assault is any physical activity without consent done by force, violence, threats, intimidation, ignoring one's objections, getting them drunk or high, or already taking advantage of them while they're already drunk or high, and or pressuring that individual to have sex, which I think is the last part, pressuring. That one is so common within our society right now. Like a lot of times men will just repeatedly like harass you, basically asking over and over and over, not taking no, constantly telling that person no, constantly them, you know, crossing your fucking boundaries until you finally say yes. and then for some reason they think that's a win. Like they think that, oh yeah, like she said yes. Like nah, nigga, she didn't really say yes. She just got tired of fucking saying no. So don't pressure people into having sex with them. If they say no, just leave it alone. You don't have to ask them more than once. No means no. Another big thing when we're talking about sexual assault is consent. When we're talking about sex, sexual assault, whatever it is, consent should always come first. And that is a freely giving agreement between one or more people in regards to sex. And I mean, I guess consent could be anything between, it doesn't have to just be sex, but in this aspect, it is. We're talking about sex. And so when you give somebody consent, don't think that if I give you consent at 8:05, at 8:10, I can't like take my consent back. Like you can. If you want to stop, if you want to stop at any given moment, you are perfectly fine to be able to do that. Don't let them trick you and be like, oh, well, you're just being, a tease, or you're just being an asshole or a butt or, a bitch, whatever you want to call that person. And I don't want that fear of being labeled that, preventing you from actually saying no, because I think I've just definitely been in that situation where I've been harassed to the point where I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna just fucking do it and get it over with. It definitely doesn't make me feel good about it, but I definitely understand the logic behind why I did cave in, because it can be scary because you don't really necessarily know what that person is going to do. It's frustrating. It's just a lot, and I can definitely see how women fall into that. So when we're talking about sexual assault in regards to the actual abuser, there are three parts that we have to focus on. And this is really going towards my social workers who want to work with the perpetrator. Like, I give y'all all the fucking applause and support and love, because I cannot work with that population. Like, if anything, I just absolutely refuse to work with that population. So if you are going to, just remember that there are three things to look out for, and it's fear, power, and control. So with that fear, it's the fear that abuser instills into that individual. It's the power that they take from that individual, and it's the control that they're able to use upon that individual. And so when like I said, when we're talking about the abuser, those are three key points. And once you're able to start identifying the way those 3 points interact with that particular individual, you're able to start pulling back some pieces and being able to identify, that particular person's reasons upon being a rapist or being an abuser. Excuse me. And I know it's never a justification as to why somebody would, but just in regards to mental health and educating and trying to take preventative measures, it's important for us to, work with the abuser, because we're able to gain that insight as to why so and so grew up to be a rapist. And now that we know what factors played a role in that situation, we're able to implement it into future, individuals' lives to kind of help prevent, future sexual assaults or future rapes. So after sexual assaults, a lot of times we are just way too scared to even speak up or get help. Like I said, 40% of us, only 40% of us actually receive any type of help. So within my personal as well as my professional experience, there's really three main reasons as to why people do not say anything after they've been raped. The first one is fear, the second one is stigma, and then the third is us living in a rape culture. So again, going back to that fear, I talk a lot about that because that was my biggest issue throughout this entire healing journey, was fear. Like, I was afraid to even speak it out loud and say that I was raped, because it felt as if I said it, it made it real. And so I was really afraid to like say it out loud, even like say it in my head type shit. And with me saying it out loud, I was afraid that people wouldn't believe me. I was afraid that people would call me a liar. I was afraid that I would be bullied. I was afraid that I would end up being a fucking punchline to a trashy ass rape joke. Like, I was just afraid of a lot of rejection and a lot of negative reactions. I was afraid that my reputation would be ruined, and like that sucked. Like, as a woman, a young woman, and then being assaulted, and then people label you like horrible fucking things. Like, I was just terrified that that would happen to me. So I just didn't want to speak up for a very long time. Another thing is, and I deal with this a lot within my professional life because I'm always having to re-educate my patients with the stigma. Like, people will say and believe just about anything, especially on topics that we don't talk about to begin with. So one of the things I see a lot is people say, like, oh, well, if they didn't say no, it's not a real rape. Which, to be honest, what exactly is a real rape? Like, either it's rape or it's not. So I've heard people say, like, oh, well, it's like I said, if they didn't say no, it's not a real rape. But there's 1,000 reasons as to why somebody wouldn't say no. For example, let's say you're too scared. Like, 9 times out of 10, when people are being fucking robbed by gunpoint, most people aren't arguing with that person. Most people are not going to try to fight back. Most people are going to give you their keys, give you your purse, whatever, wallet, whatever, out of fear, And that's the same thing with being sexually assaulted. A lot of people have 1,001 body reactions. Some people may freeze, some people may freaking run, some people may fight, some people may comply. It's just you never really know until you're in that situation. Another reason why people don't always speak out is because they might be too high or drunk, and that's a red flag right there. If a person can't say yes or no, that automatically is not consent. Another thing is gender. I see a lot of this with my male patients. I'm always having to explain to them. It doesn't matter if you're a man. It doesn't matter if you feel as if you're obligated to pleasure your significant others. It doesn't mean, like, just because you're a man that it's okay for a woman to take advantage of you because you are seen as some type of macho man who's supposed to be able to put that pleasure out for women. At the end of the day, if you do not want to have sex, then you do not need to have sex. And if anybody has sex with you after you've already stated, made it clear, gestured, whatever it is that you didn't want to have sex, that is rape. Another thing is age. People can be too young or too old to be able to articulate the word no, and that in and of itself is rape, because if a person is too young or too old, you have no business having sex with them to begin with. Another thing is power. Power differential. Let's say the person is your parole officer. Let's say that person is your teacher, or your parent. You may not feel as if it's your place to be able to say no. So there are 1,000 different reasons as to why somebody wouldn't say no, and saying no should not be the only indicator of someone not wanting to have sex, because it bothers me. People can read people's body languages, and if somebody's putting out that energy of whether or not they want to have sex with you. So no should not be the only thing that you're looking for. Another thing is, people love to try to say that somehow our assault was brought on by ourselves. But I'm here to tell y'all that there's nothing that you can do, there's nothing that you can say, there's nothing that you can wear, there's no place that you can go that would justify you being sexually assaulted. It doesn't matter if you were drunk, it doesn't matter if you were flirting with that person. You do not have to have sex with them. You do not owe nobody your body. If you do not want to have sex, anything that happens after that is rape. Another thing that I've kind of gone through, especially within my professional life, is, and this is actually something that's a little on the embarrassing side, because I definitely know that I've experienced this. Individuals who are being sexually assaulted, especially like penetrative type situations, our body will react sexually just in the sense of trying to mitigate some of that trauma. It can be painful, whether it's a man or a woman, and so our body may react. And it doesn't mean that we like it. It doesn't mean that, we're engaged with that individual during our sexual assault. It just means that our body is doing what it was supposed to do in that situation to prevent any more trauma. Another situation, or not situation, but another reason why we don't talk about sexual assault, we don't open up about it, is because we live in a rape culture where sex and sexual assault is almost seen as the same thing. You can see sexual assault being played in TV. It can be glorified. You see it, people make jokes about it. You see it in games. Like, you see it on porn. You see it on social media. It's everywhere. And, like, people make jokes about it. People do not take us seriously when we speak about it. And our legal system, for me personally, I feel like it does more harm than good, because I have to now go and explain what happened. I have to go through lengthy interview process. I have to go through lengthy examination process, only to have to repeat it and defend my truth in fucking court. And that's just excessive. And I feel as if there should be another way in which we deal with sexual assault cases in our legal system. And I personally am not trying to be involved in any type of legal system when it comes to sexual assault. So with that being said, there are 1,000 like consequences or lasting effects in regards to sexual assault and survivors. So some of the things I'm going to be talking about are some things that I experienced, while some of the things I may not have. Excuse me while I scratch my nose because me and her have been fighting all day. Um, Excuse me. So one thing is, as far as like a result that happens after sexual assault, is hypersexual activity. A lot of women will become hypersexual after a assault, and from what I've experienced and like having them explain it to me, it's kind of as it's from what I've understood, it's you taking that control back. You weren't able to say no to sex last time, so now you're able to say yes or no. So you're taking that control back, and or there's somehow developed disconnect when it comes to sexual activity. So the person may not even really be present during those sexual moments. It's just something that they're now doing out of habit. On the flip side, we have hyposexual activity, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the inability to accept touch. And that's something that I definitely dealt with throughout my entire childhood up into like my adult age. For as long as I can remember, I just was not able to accept hugs or kisses or even a pat on the fucking shoulder. I just felt so awkward and so uncomfortable around any type of physical activity, especially as I got older and we were talking about boyfriends and girlfriends, and it was just I just couldn't really deal with that, and it took me a very long time to be able to not only accept touch, but to be able to accept touch in a healthy manner. Another thing is low self-esteem. That's something that I definitely kind of experienced because I had a lot of shame, guilt, and fear, and that definitely made me look at myself less. I also had a lot of feelings of uncleanliness. At any given moment, I just felt as if I needed to like scrub my skin raw, and that definitely affected my self-esteem and how I viewed myself. Excuse me. Another thing is substance abuse. I'm a substance abuse counselor, so I would say like all my patients who have some type of sexual assault has admitted in some way, shape, or form that they are self-medicating, whether it was a assault during their childhood, whether it's assault during their adulthood. Like all of them, I won't say all of them because some of them don't necessarily have the insight, but the ones who do, they're all pretty aware of their self-medicating connection to their substance abuse and their sexual assault. Another thing is mental health. A lot of people develop depression, PTSD, anxiety after these assaults. I know for me, one, I'm already bipolar, so I'm already fucking depressed. I'm already manic. So for me, it was very easy to see the PTSD and anxiety of it. I had a lot of flashbacks throughout my young adulthood, stemming after my sexual assault as an adult, and it was horrible. Just imagine you sitting here eating your favorite freaking flavor of ice cream, watching your favorite show, and then you smell something that reminds you of your sexual assault, and then boom, you're now back in that moment. And I know when I was first experiencing those, it was hard for me to get out of those moments, so I can be stuck in there for like a minute up until like hours, what it would feel like. I'm just stuck in a horrible memory. I can't get out. It was hard for me to control it, so it's like I can be in the middle of class and just become triggered and be pulled into a flashback. And so I know it was very hard for me to like interact with my peers. It was very hard for me to to be able to connect with anyone, especially during my like my undergrad. Oh yeah, no, I had a hard time interacting with my peers. Like I don't really even think I spoke that much just because I was so triggered all the time. Like at any given moment, I could be sitting here thinking about my sexual assault, and it was just a horrible fucking experience. And I really wasn't able to get over that until like I was going through therapy. And I've been going to therapy since 2018. Like it took me fucking forever. Like honestly, I'll say last year when I graduated, that was my breaking point when I finally actually started to take my mental health seriously. So it really wasn't into, I graduated, 2021. It really wasn't until 2021 that I was actually able to process my sexual assault. I was actually able to speak about it and admit that I've had it without being triggered, without being immediately pulled into a flashback. Another thing is anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety surrounding it, to the point where I couldn't even proceed in my normal daily life. Like, I don't know, I would have really bad anxiety attacks where, excuse me, I had this thing about the bathroom. Like, the bathroom was my safety zone, which I have a lot of theories as to why the bathroom would be my safety zone, but anytime I would have like a severe bad reaction, like, I don't know, my first thing was to run to that bathroom, and I would lock myself in that bathroom for fucking hours, like hours. I'd be there for a whole day if it was that bad. And like I said, like, it took me a very, very, very long time. And like, I still sometimes, like, if I'm having like a really, really, really bad anxiety attack, sometimes I would find myself in the bathroom again. But for the most part, like I said, going through therapy and being in therapy for years, like, it finally had me able to like not actually be triggered to the point where my anxiety is so bad that I have to hide in the bathroom for 3 hours. So it's like a lot of this was a learning process. A lot of this took a very, very, very long time for me to get over. And mind you, when I say get over, I don't mean like I'm actually over the assault, because I don't think that's something you ever truly get over. I think it's definitely something that you have to process for a lifetime. But to get over some of that PTSD and anxiety symptoms definitely improved the quality of my life. Because who knows where the fuck I would be if I didn't continue therapy. Actually, I know, just to be open and honest, I would probably be on drugs, or I probably would have been killed myself. Like, that sounds like really harsh, but like, just knowing the history of my family and knowing my history with how my bipolar works, like, those would probably be my two options outside of me actually putting in the work in therapy and now living a healthy and productive life. So I say all this to say, like, y'all, if you are going through a sexual assault, like, please get help, because our symptoms, our lasting effects can be wild and crazy as fuck, and it can completely destroy our lives. And I don't want nobody to go through that. Like, I'm lucky in the sense of a lot of this happened while I was in college, so I did get a lot of resources. And FAMU was just really great in the sense of I had a lot of free counseling. They provided free counseling throughout all the students, from your bachelor's to your master's degree. So that was really fucking great. Also, like, at least my therapist, she connected me to a lot of resources throughout the community. That's how I was able to really get on some good medication. So yeah, I was very much supported, and there were a lot of people around me who were able to help, versus people who are not in environments like that, where they're not able to get that therapy, they're not able to get that support. So I'm speaking to you guys in more particular, because it's harder for you guys to access that care. But I want you to know that it's something that you really need to. Like, and I saw this post by, I forgot who it was, but the individual said, we have enough money to buy weed, we got enough money to buy alcohol, we don't have enough money to go get counseling. Excuse me. And I think that's such a fucking true thing. Because everybody says, oh, I don't have money to go get counseling, but you went to the movies 3 times this month. Like, that's $20 each time you went. 2, 3, 2, 6, 2, 4, 6. There we go. That's $60 fucking dollars you didn't spend this week. So it's just like, you go out to eat every single day, but you still can't have money to fucking pay for your therapy appointment. Like, I've had copays less than fucking $40, $30 for therapy. So it can be affordable. Now, I think the issue is truly, especially with my black people, is finding affordable therapists who take your insurance, who are also black. Because personally, I've gone through a white counselor. I've had a couple of white counselors, and there's just no way I'm gonna have another white counselor. Like, I just know. My last white counselor, I was about ready to flip the fucking table over. So this is what she told me. It was right around the time where a lot of the cases, like the Aubrey case, and just a lot of the freaking, I don't even like thinking about it because it's so fucking triggering, but a lot of like those black cases where, cops, white men are gunning us down. And I was talking to my therapist about it, which one, I'm like, why would you talk to her? Because she already white. But I'm like, it's a safe place, right? So I'm talking to her about how it's really scary to be black, and there's a lot of discrimination, and people would judge you just like off rip, looking at you, automatically you're judged. And this lady had the I don't know what the fuck she was doing. She must have been smoking dick when she said this, because she really told me that racism and the discrimination and bias that black people have is equivalent to the stigma and discrimination that people with southern accents, you heard me, southern accents have. Child, I know what to fucking do. That was my last fucking session with her. When I tell you I canceled my upcoming session with her so quick, I'm like, bitch, how fucking dare you? You really comparing fucking people with southern accents to fucking black people? Like, you want to talk about intersexuality? Is that what the word is? Yeah. Let's talk about fucking black people with southern accents. Like, they already got it fucking twice as hard now. Like, I was just like, that's crazy. Why would you say that? But anyway, it just goes to show, like, having a black, having a Latina, having a, Asian fucking therapist does so much justice for us. So when it comes to us actually being therapists, being social workers, there are a few things that I think is great when it comes to empowering us. It's really easy. It's not even some type of like major therapeutic approaches, because I'm not a huge fan of these, long-standing, therapy approaches, because my thing is 9 times out of 10, if you just level with that person and speak with them one-on-one, they're going to respond better than if you're like, oh, let's talk about the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Like, they don't fucking know that shit. So moving forward, like with the whole empowering us as social workers, one of the good things and important things is to listen and to respect us. A lot of people listen to respond, and a lot of people, while they're listening, get so caught up in their own emotions that they're unable to actually fully hear what that person is saying. So listen, keep your emotions in check, and respect what we're having to say. Don't judge us. Don't tell us what we should have done, what we shouldn't have done, or what we could have done. That does not help us, and that tends to put the fault on ourselves. So don't do that. Excuse me. Another thing, this might be my pet peeve as well. Don't silver line shit. Like, you don't have to make us feel better about a horrible fucking situation. You don't have to tell us, well, at least you still have your life, or it could have been worse. Like, I'm pretty sure this is probably one of the worst things that could have happened to you already. So I don't think it helps me by saying, well, it could have been worse. Like, that's not really helpful. Another thing is, do not pity us. We are not sick little puppy dogs. We are people who have gone through traumatic experience, and we deserve empathy. We do not deserve to be pitied. And lastly, I think this one is a very simple one. And it's simple, but it's very hard for us to do, because a lot of us have an ego when it comes to working with our population and feeling as if we know what to do all the time. But that is the problem, and it's in and of itself. If you don't know what to do and you don't know what to say, just say that. It'll get you so much further than you pretending like you do. Because I think for me, as a person who experienced it, I would much rather you just say, hey, listen, boo, I don't really know what to say. I don't really know what to do, but I'm going to sit there with you, and we're going to rock through it. You feel me? I would prefer you to say that than for you to try, and this is what I was talking about with this whole therapeutic approaches. Excuse me. You trying to like come at me with all these therapy techniques when I'm shut down, when I'm going through like the worst of the worst. All the therapy in the world is not going to help me, or not going to help any of my patients. I have to meet my patients where they are, and we say this a lot in social work, but that's what you have to do, especially in cases like this. You have to meet us where we are, because like I said, having all these therapeutic approaches are not going to help you when you don't have that connection with me. So you have to establish that connection. You have to get down in those trenches, and I do this on a daily basis with my patients, and I have to do this with myself too. You have to actually connect with that person on a feeling-to-feeling basis. It doesn't mean you have to share your soul, but it does mean that you have to be open enough for that person to connect with you. After you have that connection, after you have that relationship, after you've listened to them, you've shown them, unconditional and unconditional positive regard, you're showing them that you're not biased, then and only then are you able to move forward with some actual therapeutic approaches, because you don't want to come on too strong. Keep that ego in check and make sure that we're here for them. We're not here to make ourselves feel good, and we're not here to save them. We're here to give them the tools that they need to save themselves. So, with that being said, I'm really hoping that you social workers are able to take a little bit of this and use them within your day to day lives with your patients or your clients or however you address them. As well as my people who've experienced sexual assault, I know it can feel very isolating. I know you feel as if you're alone, because I've felt like that for so long, but you're not. I'm sure some of the things that I've shared you may have experienced, you may know somebody who has experienced it. So please take this time to kind of digest everything and just realize if you've experienced some type of sexual assault, please go get help. I refer you back to that website, RAIN, Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network, because it's definitely a great place to get resources. It finds resources within your community. It also finds national resources. So please give that a check out. Also, 211, I say that is the best fucking thing in the entire world. I call 211 for my patients. I also call 211 for myself. It's a 24/7 crisis hotline. You can call them if you're going through it and you need somebody to talk to, but you can also call them to find people in your area that you can also get help from. So I'm really hoping you guys enjoyed this content, and I'm definitely looking forward to our next episode. So you guys have a great day.